Hello, United fans, and welcome back to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn, and joining me today is my regular co host, Brush, on this day in which we've beaten Everton 2-0 at Old Trafford. But, Brush, was that the worst 2-0 win ever?
Listen, 3 points in the bag. That's what matters. So, yeah, it's like Groundhog Day, isn't it? I feel like I come on here all the time when we win and just go, yep, 3 points in the bag. That's the most important thing. Performance leaves much to be desired. And that proved to be the case again today for large parts.
Yeah, another lackluster performance from United, and the stats really back that up as well. Only 51% at home to a relegation threatened team in terms of the possession. Everton had 23 shots to United's 15.
Mm,
Um, I mean, both teams had a similar number of passes. Everton had nearly as many shots on target as United, and I think Onana had to be called upon, a few times. And obviously Everton's finish was woeful. I seen a stat during the game that Everton have only scored 14 goals from open play this season. They have drawn 10 blanks this season as well in the Premier League, and it really showed, didn't it? Everton were dreadful in the final third.
absolutely. They had nothing in the final third, luckily for us. That's all I can say about that, really. Because could they finish, then yeah, it might have been different.
Yeah, I was not impressed by United at all. And one of the things that I have to break up or bring up, sorry, that it's been annoying me probably for a number of years, and it's still continuing to this day, is that when United are on the attack, they constantly play the ball behind their teammate, and it stalls the attacks. What do they do all week on the training pitch, Brush?
Your guess is as good as mine.
United's build-up play is atrocious. The passing is wayward at times. Like Casemiro must have given the ball away the first six times he touched the ball today. So it's not just McTominay. It's so many players are guilty of just giving the ball away sloppily. And yeah, constantly playing the ball behind the teammate. When
Hmm.
they're on the counter attack and they're playing the ball out to Rashford or Garnacho, and they just play it behind them, and then that allows Everton to get more bodies behind the ball. And you're like, what are you doing? You know, they just look really poorly coached as well. I have to be honest. And today, even though we won, it done nothing to convince me that Ten Hag is going to be here beyond the season.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? I think we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. Because obviously we know when new ownership comes in, they usually have plans. And if he's a part of that or not, I really don't know. Based on what we've seen, the one thing we can all agree on, I think, the quality of football has not been good enough. Um, you have to factor in injuries and stuff as well, but there is a certain naivety with the manager and stubbornness, I think, more than anything, persisting to play certain way when the players are not maybe adept at that. The two that stood out for me today, though, special mention to Johnny Evans. He got a standing ovation today, and rightly so. And also Garnacho, bright spark.
Yeah, Garnacho obviously won both penalties given away by James Tarkowski and Ben Godfrey. Garnacho's trickery, catching them with they put their foot in.
Yeah.
He was too quick for them.
I was a little bit surprised actually, Carl, because obviously that's not the kind of mistake I expect from a seasoned centre back like Tarkowski. So it just
Yeah,
kind of highlights the problem that Garnacho can cause, you know?
yeah, just inside the penalty area on the left hand side at the Stratford end. Uh, Garnacho drops his shoulder to go past him, and he sticks out a left leg. And yeah, that was a dreadful decision by a 31-year-old centre back, as you say.
Hmm.
Um, but he's up against a teenager, he's and he's not the quickest, Tarkowski. So um, it makes it even more strange that he made that decision to put his foot in there. Um,
Definitely.
and then another mazy run from Garnacho led to Ben Godfrey standing on his toe basically, and another clear as day penalty. So Garnacho is really causing havoc. I have to say though that the first 20, 25 minutes, Everton were by far the better team, and United were all over the place. So Garnacho really got United out of a hole today. I feel by winning that first penalty.
Oh, definitely. When we were 1-0 up, I was kind of just looking around thinking, "Oh, not quite sure how we're leading here." Um, and and then the second one came as well, and it really settled us down. But yeah, honestly, I wasn't sure where the goals were going to come from if it weren't for the pens. Garnacho was perhaps quite unlucky not to get on the score sheet. There was the one chance where Bruno played it in, but overhit it slightly. It's very harsh to criticise Garnacho there. He tried his best to get on the end of it, but there was just too much pace on the ball. And in the second half, which I thought was quite lackluster in its entirety, Garnacho had another chance as well where it went over the bar, but you know that's an element of his game that hopefully he will improve in years to come.
Hold on, Simon here with a comment here that I'm going to disagree with just by looking at the opening line. He says, I disagree regarding Ten Hag, and I'm a blue. He won't get sacked at the end of the season. I can assure you, Simon, he will be sacked at the end of the season. Like me and Brush have talked about. I think is it.
I'm not sure, Simon. I'm on the fence. It depends entirely on what Ineos want to do, right? So I don't know.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. You mentioned it already that new owners always make changes and they usually change the manager as well. They're not going to change everyone around him and just keep him. That's just so unlikely that they would change the scouts, the medical team, the players, the directors, and then keep him.
But I can
And
also see a thing, Carl, where they do it in sections, right? So if they're getting a few pieces in this summer, and then obviously Ten Hag's only got another 12 months left after this season, so
you
I
do
could
not want.
potentially see a scenario where they maybe let him see out his contract, maybe you know
I don't. I
see how
honestly
it
don't.
goes with structure above him for a year.
We had 16 defeats in all competitions this season, and bottom of the Champions League group, out of the League Cup in October. Another few hammerings. Dreadful away record against the top teams. Some awful signings that he's
But
made.
is it all on him though? Like, surely there has been blame elsewhere as well, no? Or is
Oh
that
no,
or does the
no,
buck stop with him?
it does start with him in many issues. I mean, I heard somebody today blaming the Shaw and Malacia situation on the medical team.
Mm.
Um, Supposedly Ten Hag took medical advice that the two of them are going to be available in January, and that's obviously turned out not to be the case.
And it looks ridiculous now that we gave away Regulon in Jan.
But he decided to get rid of Region and Alvaro Fernandez. Those were his calls, so the buck does start with him on that issue. But I'm just not impressed by what I see on match day. United, there's no patterns of play with United. As I say, they keep playing the ball behind their teammate. There's just this his philosophy just simply does not work. Whatever that is, I don't agree with his team selections. With constantly playing Victor Lindelof at left back, I know there's not many
But
options, but
there really isn't any other options. I'd rather him over Amrabat. That's all I'm saying currently.
he could play Dallo in that position, maybe Lindelof at right back. That would probably make more sense to me. His substitutions are abysmal, and they always make United worse. He's doing the same with Amad Diallo as he did with Palestri. He will not get a chance. He plays Forzan over Amad Diallo, and Forzan to me is nowhere near this level. And I know Amad Diallo's got something about him. He may or may not have a long term future at United, but he's
Hmm.
certainly got more ability than Forzan. And yet Ten Hag was playing him ahead of Diallo until Forzan got injured.
Yeah, the Anthony minutes today, I would have liked to have seen Ahmad come on instead.
Yeah, yeah, and somebody made the point that Ten Hag was only able to select two of his signings in the starting 11. Well, there were a number of signings on the bench, and he doesn't select them because they're not good enough because they're poor signings. So I totally disagree with this sympathy he gets, saying that he can only pick two of his own signings. He had lots more of them on the bench, and he's not picking them because they're not good enough. So as you can see, I'm just not a fan of the manager at all. And
Mm.
but even if I was, I still think that Ineos will make a change in the summer.
Yeah, I can definitely see a scenario in which they do. But if they do, I hope they're doing their due diligence now instead of leaving it till last minute. But from the early signs are looking good though. It seems as though these guys have a plan. Things seem to be a lot more organized.
But if their plan is to bring in Graham Potter, though, then we're fucked.
Well, yeah, this is the other thing. The only other managers I've seen us linked to are the likes of De Zerbi and Potter. And if that's the change, I don't really know if
No, no,
it doesn't get me excited.
De Zerbi, I wasn't excited about him anyway, but
Yeah,
lots more
bit
fans.
overhyped, and he got found out as well in the Europa by
4-0
Roma just the
against
other night.
Roma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's taken
Uh,
quite a few batterings this season, De Zerbi.
Yeah, if we were to move on though, Carl, I'd want like proper planning around that. So it would have to be someone of a certain ilk. It would have to be
Yeah,
like a Nagelsmann or a Simeone Inzaghi or a Xabi Alonso.
it to me, it has to be someone who's won the league at a top team. It
Mm,
cannot be someone like De Zerbi, who's managed Shakhtar Donetsk and Brighton, and has never actually won serious silverware. Now losing 4-0 to Luton Town, losing 4-0 to Roma, getting beat 5-1 by Everton, you get away with that at Brighton. You won't get
it'll
away with
be
that at Old
yeah.
Trafford.
You're gonna get scrutinised at Old Trafford week in week out, aren't you? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, so the
like
pressure's different.
Brighton can win 2 games and lose 2 games, and that's okay. That's abysmal form at United. He won't get away with that.
Yeah,
So I'm not convinced by him at all. And as soon as he loses a couple of games, the first thing the fans will say is, "Well, what has he won? What has he done?" Because there'll be absolutely no belief that he can turn it around. So
yeah, but
that type
that's
of
an
appointment doesn't make
unfortunate
any
thing
sense.
in the modern game, isn't it? I think everyone's going to get scrutinized like that. But how many truly elite managers are there out there? There's only a handful, right? So whoever you go for is going to be somewhat of a risk.
Yeah,
Like
Simon, I hope you're not just like
if somebody like an Ancelotti was 10 years younger, I'd say, yeah, no brainer, go get him. But we
well,
can't.
he's not
We're not in that.
available anyway.
Yeah, yeah, and we're not in that position. So whoever you bring in, it's going to have to be someone young, someone bright, who's not quite the finished article. You know.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that Simon here, being a City fan, is more than happy with to see Ten Hag another year in the dugout. Um, the way Liverpool fans wanted Solskjaer to stay, and do you remember, we're going a long way back here, but do you remember when United fans just wanted to see Benitez to keep getting a new contract at Liverpool, because the longer he
Yeah,
stayed there,
yeah.
the better, really. Because
Especially after he had his infamous meltdown about the facts. Do you remember that speech?
yeah, well, who doesn't?
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. It all kind of went pear shaped after that.
Even people who weren't born then have probably heard about that.
Yeah, it's just like the Kevin Keegan one at Newcastle. Yeah, people can recite that to you. I'd love it. I'd love it if we beat them.
Yeah, Benitez was successful in his first 2 seasons at Liverpool, but after that, I don't think he was very good. And the more he went on, the more we wanted him to stay. But
Yeah,
eventually, they got to get rid of him. But
the
back to
Champions League win definitely bought him a lot more time than otherwise. I think he would have gotten.
yeah, but that'll always buy you time at any
Yeah,
club. Um, but this is the thing. The best time to make a change is in the summer in terms of the manager. The last thing I want is for him to be given another season, and then
mm.
we run into another mess uh, at the start of next season, and then he has to be sacked by Halloween or Christmas, and then you know you
Then you're
at
looking
that
at
stage
interim,
you're
aren't you, to see out the
yeah
season?
yeah yeah you're either interim, or you're hoping that a really good manager is out of work, and
Yeah,
you know at the moment that's not the case. I think the main reason why he's still in charge is because anyone that any of us might be interested in are probably in work at the moment, and they don't want to spend the money on an interim. I believe that the sacking Solskjaer and bringing in Ranić cost United upwards of £10 million, and I don't think that any of us want to waste that kind of money on an interim, especially when we've only
mm-hmm.
got 8 weeks or something of the season left. There's no real
Exactly.
point.
And also, like you say, everyone worth getting is currently in employment, and it's the business end of the season as well. So if they are keeping their eyes on those managers, they probably want to see them finish off the season and see what silverware they end up with. Um, Apart from the ones that we spoke about, who all look like they're going to win stuff. Well, Nagelsmann's with the German national team, so I know his contract is up in the summer anyway after the tournament. Um, Ruben Amarant at Sporting Lisbon is another one. He's been talked about over the years. It might be time that he, challenges himself elsewhere.
He's a Spurs manager. He here's the thing with him. He's exactly where Ten Hag was 2 years ago. It would be a massive risk to take
Mm,
someone from a minor league and put him in charge of Manchester United. The job could be too big for him. So I wouldn't be going down that route at the moment. I want to see him do something, you know, at a higher level before I decide upon that one. Um, a name that I've been mentioning in the last couple of weeks, which hasn't been talked about too much, is Simone Inzaghi, who's doing a great job at Inter Milan, as
he's
everyone knows.
they look as if they're going to win Serie A. They're running away with Serie A this season. And then the Champions League, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, of course, he's won 8 trophies in Italy already with
Yeah.
Lazio and Inter Milan. He got the Champions League final last season.
Hmm.
And definitely did not have the second best team in the tournament, so that always reflects well on the manager. They lost narrowly to the best team in the world. Uh, as you say, they're running away with Serie A this season,
Yeah.
and they score lots of goals. They keep lots of clean sheets. What more can you ask for? Like, some fans might not like the 3-5-2 formation, but if he got United winning, I wouldn't give a damn what friggin' formation he plays. He looks like an astute coach to me. How do you see it, Brush?
Yeah, pretty much the same way. My only thing would be that, after listening to what Sir Jim was saying, um, I feel as though they're going to put some emphasis on what the United way is, whatever that may be. Because I know when we talk about the United way, we think back to the 90s, to the glory era. I think they need to decide as a club what way in which they would like us to play, and I think that will influence who comes in. So I'm not sure if we're totally willing to just get a manager in who's going to change everything around. But personally, I don't have an issue with it as long as it works.
Yeah, I personally like something different than what's in 4-3-3 all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. And I'll tell you what, if he comes, I'd have absolutely no problem with it, especially if we could also get Lataro. Now I'm in dreamland.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be signing another striker. And Fabrizio Romano said today that we're going to be signing a starting left back next season, which is very, very
Mm.
interesting.
I mean, it's about damn time. It's several
Yeah,
years overdue.
yeah, and both our first and second choice left backs are just completely
Yeah.
unavailable for most of the season. It's a disaster.
I'll tell you what, the wing back they've got at Inter Milan, he's pretty good as well. Age probably doesn't help him, Demarco, but yeah, some of the crosses he puts into the
Oh,
box.
yeah, and Gervaldo at Bayer Leverkusen, oh, fabulous player.
Mm-hmm.
And Frimpong obviously would fit into that system.
Yeah,
Um,
very much so. And also Latoro, I mean, as unrealistic as it is, could you imagine? Because he does all of the dog work around another striker. That's what made his
mm,
partnership with Lukaku so good. So could you imagine if we had him next to Hoyland?
yeah, he could be our Julian Alvarez, if you like.
Yeah, precisely. But he's actually got killer instinct as well. His goal tally is ridiculous. I think he's one of the top marksmen in Europe as well this season.
Yeah, um, yeah, it's just getting me excited even talking about that. By the way, it's worth mentioning that I was impressed by Jared Brathwaite today, who's been linked heavily with
Yes.
Manchester United. He prevented a certain goal from Kobe Menu in the 6 yard box. That was really good defending. Big centre half. He must be about 6'5", 6'6". He's a goal threat at the other end of the pitch as well.
Mm.
Still very young, still only 21, I think. And I believe that United's new sporting department are big fans of his. So if we can get that deal done, I would be in favour. Another thing that's worth mentioning is Onana, the midfielder for Everton. I was not impressed by him today, and he's been linked with United.
Yeah,
So what was
yeah. He
your?
had quite an audacious bicycle kick.
Yeah,
Didn't have
yeah,
out
yeah.
much, luckily, thankfully for us.
He was very late with some of his challenges and give away free kicks in dangerous positions. Um, yeah, and that overhead kick. Yeah, it was Onana. It was a pass back from Onana to Onana. It
Hmm.
was pretty poor. Oh, it wasn't poor. I suppose it was a decent effort given how far out he was, but it was never going to trouble the goalkeeper with that kind of from that distance and that power on it.
Yeah. Oh, and just
Um,
to confirm, 6'5", Jared Breathwaite.
yeah, he's absolute
Yeah.
monster of a man, like,
Yeah, yeah, very commanding.
and really good on the ball as well, and
Yep,
left-footed player.
yep.
Um,
And
so
only 21 years old, homegrown as well. He'll fit the quota.
so
He
if
ticks
the
a lot of boxes.
So if like Martinez since April last year, we've hardly had him available at all. So if that sadly continues into next season, in Brathwaite we'll have a ready-made replacement there to play at left centre back. So that signing makes a lot of sense from that point of view. But hopefully it
Definitely.
doesn't come to that.
Yeah.
Hopefully
He,
Martinez is available.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, again with Breathwaite, versatile as well. I think I've seen him fill in all across the back for them. So yeah.
Yeah, of course. He could play slot in at left back if needed. Like
Mm,
Dan Burn at Newcastle.
yep,
He's a
precisely.
giant of a fullback.
Precisely. It's not going to look pretty, but when needs must, it's good to have these options.
Yeah, you see, uh, with us missing our first choice left backs and having no left backs really to select, the minimum that I want in that position is a left-footed player, and we don't even have that available to us.
Hmm.
Um, I know some people have mentioned Anthony, but let's get real for a moment. Like, you know.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I just think those people have been playing too much FIFA, to be honest, Carl.
Yeah,
Like honestly, like it's ridiculous. To take a to take a right winger and to play him at left back just because the main reasoning is what? Because he's left footed.
honestly. If Ten Hag did decide to do that madness,
Mm.
how long do you think it would be before Anthony would be sent off in the game?
Ah,
If you,
jeez. I mean, I can maybe understand if they were, championing trying to turn him into a right wing back, similar to the conversion made by Valencia. But to stick him on the opposite side, I don't understand it. Um, and also let him try and get competent in his preferred position first. Like we've not even been convinced by what he's supposed to be good at.
well, I don't think he's going to get much more of a chance, to be honest, because
Mm,
what we're being told, by people in the know, is that um the new sporting department just want to get rid of Anthony, regardless of what Ten Hag thinks. They're putting him up for sale this summer, and I don't blame them, to be
okay.
honest. But they're not going to get much money back. Let's be frank about it.
No, they're not.
But this is what United have to do. This is what happened at City. Um, this is what happened at other clubs when they were bought over. When you want to have a clear out, you need to be prepared to take losses, financial
And
losses.
yeah, and you have to be ruthless with it as well. Yeah, my only thing is obviously you need a clear sense of direction in what it is that you're trying to achieve before you just start selling. But yeah, absolutely. You'll remember when Pep came in at Man City and just ousted Joe Hart as the number one immediately. And it's not
Mm,
like Joe did anything wrong. He didn't put a foot wrong in the years prior when he was there. But he just wasn't the guy for Pep.
yeah, he, no, he's going to be retiring this season, I believe.
Mm.
Uh,
He's at Celtic, no?
he is, yeah. He's had a
Okay.
couple of successful seasons there,
Yeah.
and this season they're getting it a bit more tight. But
Mm.
I think he's about 36, 37 now.
Okay.
So he didn't really fit the Pep's, ideal of, a sweeper keeper.
Yeah.
So he had to be moved
And
on.
then he brought in another one who was an absolute disaster class. And then he had to go as well.
Just on that though, we've been saying all season, both of
Mm.
us, about what a
Mm.
disaster class that Andre Onana has been. But
Yes.
I wanna whisper this quietly. Is he showing signs of improvement in the last few games?
Do you know what? Touch wood. Touch wood. Let's not spoil it. The thing is, when he's good, he can be good. It's just that he's always got a mistake in him. Like I'm never comfortable when a shot rains down on him.
No,
Like
but
last week against City, Carl. Oh my day, the second goal. Like what was he doing? It looks worse on the replay. Like
do you know?
what are this guy's wrists made out of?
Yeah, it was disappointing, but which spoiled a really good performance by him. Overall
Hmm.
in that City game. Uh, but he's looking more commanding of his area. He's coming for crosses. He's catching the ball rather than punching it.
Yeah.
He's making decent saves. He's not flopping at things. He's he's not giving the ball away when he's in possession, which we've
Yeah,
obviously seen.
honestly, listen, with a settled back four in front of him as well, I do think we'll see a better Onana.
And
But my concern is, like I say, that second goal that City scored last week, it shouldn't happen.
yeah, well, the thing is, United again today conceded another 23 shots. It's
Hmm.
198 in the last 8 games or something. Absolutely insane shots
I
to
think I was
concede.
reading something like only Sheffield United have, conceded more shots than us.
If United get that down to next season, they get that down to a normal level of shots to concede by a club like Manchester United, then the goalkeeper will be under less pressure, and it won't matter that Onana is not primed ahead. If you get where I'm
Hmm.
coming from, but he's under so much pressure now that he's going to let some things in because he so many shots are on target against United in every single game.
That's the
So
concern, isn't it? But yeah, the only other thing for me is just some of the goals that he concedes. I just think a competent keeper should do better there. Be a keeper with decent fundamentals.
yeah,
Like,
see,
do you remember the goal against Luton that he conceded, where he just kind of jumped up in the
uh
air and flapped his wings? It was like he was trying to
yeah,
take flight. I was like, what are you doing?
it was like me trying to do an impression of Schmeichel Starfish.
Yeah, see, stuff like that, it just annoys me because like there's no way to fix that.
Yeah, this is the thing. A lot of people are saying on social media that how well he's playing at the moment,
Yeah,
but we've been here before, back in the autumn, where he had
yeah.
a really good spell,
Ah, and we were
and
here
he
last season as well. Like, despite all of the criticisms coming the way of De Gea, the stats people would be like, "Oh, but he's got X amount of clean sheets." You know.
mm, he's more clean sheets than Allison this season, I believe.
Mm,
But then Allison is currently injured, so I'm not sure how much that actually means.
yeah,
Kevin Gallagher has been playing in the last few Liverpool games. Um, yeah, sure. I don't read too much into that. To me, Um, I would say last season was one of De Gea's poorest, and yet
yeah,
he came away with a Golden Glove. So you know, clean sheets
exactly.
are clean sheets are a collective thing.
Yeah,
That's down to the defense as much as the goalkeeper. Um, mm, yeah,
yeah. So we have to take these things with a pinch of salt, somewhat. But I do
yes,
agree with you. Like, it is nice to see him put in these kind of performances. Definitely a marked improvement. But like I
but
say, there's always going to be things that annoy me about this guy.
he would have to play like this from now to the end of the season for me to be convinced.
Yep.
Maybe not even then.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just honestly, when I saw the replay as well, it just makes my blood boil. Like when it when it's within reaching distance and you're not getting a hand to anything, it just annoys me to no end.
yeah, I feel as if he's going to throughout a season. Um, every season that he is here, if he does continue beyond the season,
Mm,
he's going to have good spells and bad spells. That's the way it's going to
yeah,
be. And is that good enough for where we want to be? I don't
yeah.
think so.
I mean, in my head at the moment, I think, well, it depends obviously a lot on what we do going forward in terms of the manager, if there's going to be a change or whatnot. But I can't see us keeping him beyond 2 seasons, two full seasons.
Yeah, probably not.
So
And
yeah, that's
unless,
my early prediction for now. I reckon this summer, I reckon he'll probably stay, but yeah, in another 12 months' time, we'll probably ask questions if he continues on.
yeah, but if we did bring in Simone Inzaghi, who has worked with Onana, does
Mm.
that give him another lifeline?
Oh, I guess it does. Under Inzaghi, because obviously that's the coach he's worked under. But then if we move to a back three as well, it changes things, doesn't it? If you're going five at the back, three centre backs, wing backs, maybe a style that
Yeah,
suits him. But again, I'd still be annoyed at the calamities though, because that's part of his game.
Yeah, yeah. He wouldn't be my choice as a goalkeeper
No.
if I was playing, FIFA or Championship Manager. I would not be selecting him in my team.
Mm,
If I'm being honest about it. So once again, the substitutions left my head. I was scratching my head again.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so he brings Amrabat on for Menu. Why? Uh, and then he brings Anthony on for Garnacho, who's our best player. Why? Uh, did not understand that. Willie Camboala came on late on for Johnny Evans. He got the standing ovation, as you say. So did Garnacho. But
Deservedly for Johnny. And I'll tell you what, I was, when we discussed it in the summer, you were the first one to break the news to me about the link, and I laughed at it. And yeah, honestly, he's been brilliant.
yeah, it's just a pity that he's not about 7 years younger
Yeah.
than Mario is. Um, yeah, why would you bring off your best midfielder and your best player on the day to bring on his two signings that have been awful for Manchester United? But those are always his go-to substitutions, and
Hmm.
but they're actually so bad that he can't justify starting them, but he still brings them on as the first subs. Uh, yeah, they're not gonna
Yeah, it's a bit of a
they're
head
not.
scratcher, isn't it? It's got me wondering sometimes, is there something that we're not seeing that's happening in training? Like why are you, giving preferential treatment, it seems like, to these
And
players
Christian Eriksen's not getting a look in,
at
which
all.
is
I mean, he's gone in the summer, isn't
yeah. I mean, he's still good for 30 minutes, I would say.
he?
You know,
Definitely. See, he's the late sub that I would like to see to help out in midfield to bring a bit of calmness, experience.
yeah. Uh, in both situations, whether you're
Yep.
losing or you're winning, yeah, I
Hmm.
would bring him on with 30 minutes to go. Um, Also, Diallo not getting a look in. It's just the same as Plessery in the first part of the season. He's
Yeah,
just taking up another space on the bench, and it's a complete waste of a player who's got ability. Um, I just
definitely.
how Ten Hag can think that Forzan is ahead of Diallo in the packing order is beyond me. Because what we seen from Forzan against Fulham and in the
Hmm.
sub appearance against City was not very good, was it?
No, no. Yeah, very harsh as well. I think, to just throw the kid in there. Obviously, on his debut, he came off, I think, what, after 60 minutes. Not very impressive. But again, just out of the cold and into the team. Yeah, I don't know what he's seeing in him over Ahmad, especially after the season Ahmad had last season. I know it was in the championship, but still, he had a stellar season. And then to just be getting these kind of minutes, just next to none, just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's an like it isn't just one reason why I'm not a fan of Ten Hag. It's a number
Mm,
of reasons, and this is one of them. I
mm,
just do not. He's not someone that I would want to be part of this new reset. Uh, he's just part of the old regime, and
mm,
I think as and this is my belief, and it's also what a prominent Ajax fan said on social media. The job is just too big for him. I just there's certain managers that they'll win leagues at Ajax, they'll do well at Dortmund, but as far as taking Manchester United to the next level, they're not capable of doing that. I mean, only three managers in our history have won the league title. Is Ten Hag going to be the fourth one? Not for me. No chance.
mm.
And that might be a strong opinion, which people don't like, but that's where I am with it. Um, so Scott McTominay, another very, very poor game in the centre of the park. His passing is dreadful. And
in, in light of his last couple of appearances, I thought this was probably one of his better days.
got booked because his second touch is a tackle and he was
Hmm.
booked. Yeah, and this happens far too often. Yes, he's actually gained United 12 points this season in the Premier League with his late goals. And that obviously makes him a sellable asset, which is fine. which is great, and he'll be pure profit because he came through the academy. So will Rashford if he's sold. That's what it was meant to. That's what I was going to say to you earlier in the show.
Mm.
United will look to sell academy graduates because it'll be pure profit. I can see one or two of them going for good money. So
Yeah,
watch the space.
yeah, especially with the Rashford thing. I think you've mentioned before, right? Especially, with Mbappe going to Real Madrid, perhaps there's an opportunity there to shift Rashi to PSG. If there is such an offer on the table, then that's on they would seriously have to look at this summer.
Well, with that goal against City, he's going to keep the keep club interest in him because some people were saying that he's not done nothing this season. He's only scored a
Yeah,
handful of goals. Who's going to be interested in him? But he showed what he's capable of against
yeah, yeah.
City.
Something out of nothing, and it was a fantastic finish against City.
Very interesting comments from Wayne Rooney today as the pundit for BT.
Mm,
He was asked how much sympathy does he have for Marcus Rashford at the moment. He says not
yeah.
much, to be honest. He's in a privileged position.
Hmm.
Um, Given like Rooney, even when he was playing in the MLS at 35 years old, was running back and making tackles.
Oh, but
Rooney's
that was his game, wasn't it? Never say
yeah,
die. You know.
Rooney's watching a very lazy Rashford week in week out.
Yeah.
He also wasn't very complimentary towards him when he was in the studio for the Forest FA Cup match. Neither was
Mm,
Alan Shearer, of course, on that night.
hmm.
Because United fans get annoyed about this. They start slagging off Shearer for giving his honest opinion on Rashford, but he's telling the truth. It's a player that's not fulfilling his potential because he's not giving his all. He's a player that's down tools, and that's what we've been watching all season.
And I think
Uh,
that's the most disappointing thing, isn't it? It's because people do rate him because he does have the talent. So when people see that it's not being fulfilled, it's gonna annoy
and,
them.
and some of the reports have been saying that, and we don't know how true or false this is, that Rashford is waiting to see what happens with Ten Hag at the end of the season before
Mm,
making a decision on his own future. That if that's true, that tells me that him and Ten Hag don't have a great relationship, as reported
mm.
by Neil Custis in the Sun, that they basically not talking that much anymore. I don't know if that's true or not, but it wouldn't surprise me given the amount of times that Rashford has been disciplined by Ten Hag, three times now, I think it is, and obviously the most
Yeah,
famous one being the two nights out in Belfast. The
which is
thing,
utterly, utterly ridiculous. Like being someone of that profile, you should know better.
yeah, and I think the worst part about it from Ten Hag's point of view is that he lied about when he was actually out. You know,
Yep.
United players were due for training on the Friday.
Hmm.
Rashford told the boss that he was out on the Wednesday night, but it turned out he was also out on the Thursday night,
Yeah, that's
um,
the thing, and
and
it's
that's
so
why.
ridiculous on his part as well because obviously, you know, um, the era we live in, there's going to be pictures, things are going to get posted on social media. How he thought he could lie to management and get away with that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise that there was mobile phone footage of him in a nightclub because people are going to recognize him.
Hmm.
Um, but back to Rooney for the moment. I get the impression that he's not a fan of Gen Z. You know, Rooney is a millennial like me and you, and
Yeah.
I think Gen Z can piss him off. The Gen Z footballers, they're a totally different breed to what we were used to when we were
Yeah,
growing up.
definitely. Because with this new generation, I mean, football's almost an afterthought for them. It's like they're a little bit on the side. Like these people are just out here to be celebrities. They're signing brand deals, they do fashion shows. Whereas even before in our day, obviously they used to do that, but it used to be the other way around, right? Football was still the first thing on their minds. Whereas these days, I don't know if it is.
Yeah, and they don't seem to care about winning as much, winning
And
trophies.
no, I mean, listen, look at the amount of wealth these kids are amassing. They've got nothing to play for or work towards. Look at the problem that Chelsea have got. £1 billion spent, and where are they? They're not even in the top half of the table. I don't think. I think they're still 11th. And when you put these young kids and young men on contracts for 8 years, what have they got to play for?
Yeah, and that brings me on nicely to Menu, who's now in negotiations for a new contract. Absolutely
Mm,
no problem with that whatsoever, but we have to
hmm.
be careful what we give him in terms of wages.
Absolutely, the structure, the wage structure is so important. So yeah, it has to be, obviously it has to be enough to reflect his importance in the first team setup, but at the same time, you don't want to, you know, give him too much too soon.
Yeah, let's not go and offer him 250 grand a week.
Yeah,
Please,
let's
no,
not do
don't do
that.
that.
Please, hell no, hell to the no. Let's make it incentive based as well. So maybe a lower, uh, weekly wage, but then add a few bonuses in there for hitting certain targets.
You should do that with all the players from now on.
Yeah,
I feel.
yeah. For success as well. Reward them for like cup wins or where you finish in the league, the high up you get. Incentivize it.
Yeah, I remember Roy Keane talking about when he played for United. There was goal bonuses, win bonuses,
Hmm.
clean sheet bonuses, trophy
Yeah,
bonuses. That's the way it should be.
absolutely. Give them a
Um,
little kick. Give them keep them motivated.
Another thing that Rooney was talking about today, he was asked about Menu and he likened him to a young Bastian Schweinsteiger. What do you think
Mm.
about that comment?
Listen, I before that I had Rio Ferdinand compare him to Seedorf. Like these are legendary names, and I'm just very keen to keep Kobe's feet firmly on the ground. He's a fantastic talent, but we've not even seen one full season of him yet. And I just don't want to, I don't want to burden him. I'm happy watching him. He's certainly a talent. For listen, I would have absolutely no complaints because for me, Bastian Schweinsteiger is probably one of the most complete midfielders I've seen.
Yeah, and as usual, when it comes to Manchester United under Ed Woodward,
Mm.
we got him when he was well over the hill and injury prone. And
I'll tell you what, that's still one of my favorite signings post Fergie. I know he wasn't like great when he was with us, but still, I loved having him around, especially because we had lost all of the experience when all the old guard left in Pat, Rio, and Vidic. And it was just nice to have someone about the place who had won everything, who had been at the highest level. And I thought, even if he can't play week in, week out, that's who we need in the dressing room and who can pass on his knowledge and wisdom to the youth. So I was quite upset when Jose came in and got rid of him.
didn't just get rid of him, but he froze him out for 9 months before
Yes, yeah.
that as well.
And even in the last game that he played, I think it was the League Cup game. I can't remember who it was against. Wigan, I think it was. He scored and assisted. And yeah, he put a man of the match performance. And I think Jose said afterwards as well that he regretted how he treated Bastia.
Yeah, that was bang out of order really from
Yeah,
Jose. You know, a
like
World
I
Cup winner.
understand somebody wanting to come in and make changes. You can't really argue with that. You have to go with what the gaffer wants, right? But yeah, someone of that ilk, of that experience, yeah, it was very poor the way that was dealt with.
Yeah, he's a World Cup winner, Champions League winner,
Yeah,
multiple title winner in
and
Germany,
I've
and
got a lot of time for him, Carl, because even now he still tweets about us. Every game, every game day.
I always see it. Yeah,
Oh,
especially
yeah,
especially when it's a big game, you always
yeah,
see his
yeah,
tweet.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I seen his
yeah.
tweet ahead of the Manchester derby. Would you like Bastion? We're not going to win this game. I'm sorry. we we would need 10 of him in his prime to win that game, and
Mm.
unfortunately,
Listen,
we don't
I'll
possess
do.
that.
I'll settle for one.
Yeah,
Like honestly, like out of all the midfielders I've seen, he's right up there for me. Just complete.
yeah, brilliant. It's a pity we didn't see the best of him at United.
Yeah, yeah. If only we could have got that done a few years prior. Oh, what would have been?
We had Di Maria, Falcao, Schweinsteiger all in the same time, and we didn't see the best of them. Like that, Ed Woodward was essentially playing Championship Manager. He thought,
Yeah. A lot of it didn't make sense, did it? Like it was the big sexy names coming in, but no balance in the squad whatsoever. I remember that summer when we got Falcao, and I was like, wait, how are you going to fit him, Van Persie, and Rooney in the same team? Like, who's going to be sold? And they didn't tell any of them. I was like, oh, okay, this is
well,
strange.
Yeah, Van Hal actually gave that a go until we lost 5-3 at Leicester, and then he binned it.
Yeah. It's craziness. And again, poor planning as well, because I remember that year when Van Gaal was coming in. It's when Lewandowski's contract was running down, and I was like, oh, if you did want to cash in on Van Persie and move people on, see, that's the guy we should be targeting.
Yeah, and he's still banging them in at his age, mid
Yeah,
30s now. Uh, yeah, so we need to obviously recruit a left back. We need a striker to work alongside Hoyland or rotate with him.
yep.
And we
Could
probably
do
need a
with a
right
midfielder
winger.
and a centre half as well.
We need a centre half. Actually, we need a player in every position.
Yeah, yeah. It's just about priority, though, right? So yeah, for me, definitely we need a central midfield player and a centre half because obviously Johnny can't keep going on. He's getting on. Varane, we know
it's
his issues.
it's
Martinez, I'm hoping he's going to be back next season.
it's probably going to take 3 windows for us to see the squad in the image of the new sporting department.
Hmm.
It's not going to happen in just one summer. But I believe they want to get rid of 10 players in the summer window. So
Mm.
that's right. That's something we haven't seen at all. Um, maybe not at all in my lifetime, to be honest with you.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I think it can be done. Obviously, because of the sheer incompetence we've gone through over the years, we think it can't happen at United. So it'll be interesting to see how the new regime approach things.
Yeah. Now the only question is, well, we know who's going to be taking up the main roles, it seems, but the start date seems to be the big question hanging over because of
Mm-hmm.
all this gardening leave
Yep.
they're on. Um, it's obviously built into their
I,
contracts.
I'm sh- I'm sure they'll sort something out. See I can't see him wanting to just send him on gardening leave for a year and a half. It doesn't help anyone, doesn't help them either. Just
No,
paying someone to do nothing. It doesn't make sense, does it?
I think Newcastle seem to be worried that Don Ashworth knows all their secrets. What secrets?
Mm.
What have they
I
done
mean,
that's so special? Like honestly, and even this talk that they've locked his database so he can't see it.
mm.
Um, so apparently on his, he's basically has a database on every containing every professional footballer in the world. It seems.
Okay, but I mean,
And
surely that's not exclusive to Newcastle. Like, I'm sure he
yeah,
has a little database for himself, right?
yeah,
Like, you
yeah.
would keep
He
tabs on
knows.
players. Like, you can't wipe his memory.
But apparently, one of the columns in his database is personality of the player, which is
Mm.
something that we've talked about a lot
Yes, it's
on United.
imperative. Yes, and this is one of the things. Um, one of the things when we signed Anthony that I was quite concerned about. I talked about at the time, but people didn't really care too much. I didn't like how he forced his move. And I know it's a very little thing at the time. We were the big club. People were going, oh, we're offering so much money. Why don't they accept? And, they're never going to get a better offer than this. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's up to the club if they want to sell or not, irrespective of what you're offering, right? And then I just thought it was very unprofessional the way he acted on top of that. And I just thought, you know what? If he can do that to them, he can do that to us. And I remember being on the receiving end of that when Cristiano went to Real Madrid, and it was the same sort of thing. And I didn't like it then, and I didn't like it now. But these are little character faults that when you really look at it, they come to fruition later down the line. This is why it's important to do your due diligence on the kind of personalities you're bringing in.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I mean, there's going to be no scenario where Anthony is angling for a move to Real Madrid because he's just not good enough to be even considered by Real Madrid. Not even close.
Well, this
I
was
mean,
yeah. Well, this was 2 years ago, right? So back when he still looked like a prospect.
yeah, and also it was James Ducker of the Telegraph said that there had been allegations made against him
Mm.
while he was at Ajax, and
Yeah.
United
See,
shared up
these
more
are the
about this.
kind of things that if we're run properly, we need to investigate because yeah, obviously with the agents and players, there will be cover-ups of certain things. But you need to investigate as much as possible. Obviously, you can't always negate for everything, but there's certainly more that we can do to iron out these things.
Yeah, and I just don't think that Sancho was the right character either,
Mm.
for what we
And
were
again,
trying
and
to build.
again, that's another one where apparently there are already signs at Dortmund.
Yeah, this guy's just going to waste his career, isn't he?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just.
potentially, potentially. I mean, he's still got age on his side, but that
But I mean,
doesn't that only gets you so far. You still need to have the determination and the right attitude.
but when he's done
Cap.
nothing for United in 2.5 years, then he gets a loan spell back to the club where he made his name, and he's still doing nothing.
Yeah.
That's not a
I
good
mean, to be
sign.
honest, I didn't expect him to just go there and it would just suddenly click back. I didn't think he would just go and start rediscovering his form. You still have to put work in, right?
He doesn't have any kind of work rate.
Mm,
It ain't gonna happen for him unless he completely changes how he approaches,
yeah.
how he applies himself.
Yeah, that's the thing. For his sake, I hope he does it. If not, he could end up being the next Deli Ali. Look at him from where he was, during those Spurs years to where he is now. And he's still only like 27, 28, I think, which is
another
quite damning.
another wasted talent. But
Yep.
as we've seen with his interview with Gary Neville, he has a lot of demons and mental health issues as well,
Yeah.
which we have to take into account.
Oh,
And
absolutely. But at the same time, though, Carl, I was thinking when I was watching that, yeah, I was like, but you had these same demons when you were scoring all those goals and playing really well,
yeah, I suppose that can lead to
you
inconsistencies.
know?
And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I do hope he gets the help that he needs. But yeah, off the
same,
pitch, that is something that we take for granted. I know Aaron Lennon went through something quite serious as well while
yeah,
he was at Everton.
and
So
Sancho as well. Of course, we have to mention that. He had 4 months out with
yes, yeah,
issues.
yeah, that is true. Yeah, I think that's probably what irks fans more though. The fact that last season, the manager took him to his side, gave him all that time off and come back, and then you know the fact that it led to this is just it's disappointing.
Yeah, but it's 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 bad when Sancho at Dortmund in his first spell there was accusing the club of making him out to be a scapegoat, and then he does the
Mm,
same thing at United. There's a pattern forming there, and
hmm
he doesn't. He's another. We come back to Gen Z again, where they don't accept any accountability for their own actions, and they tend to blame everyone else.
Yeah, and with that one, the club have to take responsibility as well because we chased him for so long. So you would think that they did all of their due diligence in that time, you know?
Yeah. Uh, very another massive waste of money. To be honest,
Yep,
money that we're never going to get back again.
yep.
Um, and obviously, I just want to make the point that whenever I reference Gen Z as a millennial, I'm generalizing. I'm not saying that everybody's like that. It's just a stereotype, if you like. Um, and what other people might say it's just that it's different generation. But sure, the the baby boomers would got annoyed at us.
I
Different.
think every generation says it
Yeah,
about the one that comes after.
yeah, yeah. It's
I
always
mean,
it's always the same.
yeah, yeah, like because even Fergie, like the one thing that we really have to take our hats off to is the way he adapted his style of management and man management as he got on and dealt with different generations. Like the way he dealt with Giggsy and Sharpie wasn't the same by the time Rooney Ronaldo came about.
Oh yeah, I mean the way he dealt with Rooney and the way he dealt with Nani was
Yeah, yeah,
completely different. It was like night and day.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I remember
because of
listening
Fergie.
to I listened. I remember listening to the Lee Sharp episode of the United podcast, and he was saying the first time he got a tattoo, he was so shit scared of the gaffer seeing it. He pretty much like covered his arm like the whole season, and then the
I'm,
one
I'm,
time, the one time the gaffer did see it, he said he came up to him and gave him a slap and called him an idiot.
and now they're just covered in tattoos. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Now they just covered, aren't they? Yeah,
Lee, Lee Sharp's stories are about Fergie are immense. There's been
yeah.
quite a few of them. He talked about at full time at Selhurst Park in
Mm,
the game where Cantona was sent off for the kung fu kick. He said about Fergie, smashing teacups and throwing egg crest sandwiches and
mm,
having a go at Incy and gigs, and then just saying, and you can't go around doing things like that, son. Looking at our Cantona. Uh, like other people were getting their balls chewed off them.
Yeah, yeah.
Cantona is the one who committed, the
Hmm.
major crime in the match, and he just gets like a wee slap on the
And
wrist.
you know what it is? It's probably very clever. It's probably the anger he had towards what had happened with Cantona. He just had to get it out in a different way.
Yeah, he knew how to manage different
Yeah,
people.
yeah. That was the key.
Um,
Yeah.
another Lee Sharp story was about the house parties they used to have.
Oh yes, yeah. Fergie shutting it down, turning the
Yeah,
music off, and
because
kicking everyone out.
there was a he said people will be escaping out the back window of
Hmm.
the house, when Fergie would roll up in the car. Um, he said at the time there was a taxi driver in Manchester who looked like Fergie,
Mm,
and somebody at the party was saying, Fergie's out the front. They're like, nah, it's probably just that taxi driver that looks like him, and it really was him. And
yeah.
I think Lee Sharp realized it was actually Fergie and not the taxi driver because people were climbing out
Hmm.
the back window and running across the fields, out the back, to get away. And then they would go out partying like either in Manchester or even in London. Yet Fergie would know
Yeah.
exactly what they drank and how many bottles they bought.
Hmm.
You know, no matter how far away they were, he had somebody watching them. Yeah, so it was like, yeah, it's funny whenever they tell the stories from
Yeah.
that
So there's
generation.
ones like that. The Beckham era, obviously. Because he wasn't happy with what Bex was doing off the field. There was one story that he told actually quite recently when he popped up on the overlap where he had a Mohican, which he didn't show off in training or anything. He was just wearing a beanie hat. So it was only on match day that that Fergie saw it, and Fergie told him to go shave it off,
Of course he did. Yeah.
and he did, and he was like, yeah, if he didn't do it, he wasn't going to play. So yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah. Fergie.
like, could you
What?
imagine that now? Like, because these guys come out with all kinds of hairstyles and colors, and
Yeah. Um. I wonder what Fergie would make of these, you know, Gen Z footballers like
yeah, yeah,
Sancho and Rashford and Lingard and all these guys.
yeah, yeah.
Um.
Oh, I'd
Um.
love to get his opinion on people who have like tattoos of themselves.
um. I mean, Fergie. He is from like what is it the silent generation or the traditionalist generation, the ones before the baby boomers. So
Yeah.
he is a like man in his 80s. So he's like,
But considering that, it's quite impressive the way he adapted throughout the years.
yeah. But would this current generation be a step too far for him? I suppose we'll never know.
Maybe
But
I think this generation is a step too far for a lot of people. I mean, I feel my age now, Carl, because I be looking at Garnacho sometimes, going, "God, why is this kid covered in ink? He's only 19. Like, how many of those is he going to regret in 10 years' time? Jeez."
yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. I suppose it's one of them things where you've got so much money and nothing to spend it on,
Yeah.
so they
And
tend to
to
go
be
for
honest,
tattoos
listen,
and
I have
cars.
nothing against tattoos or anything of that nature. Like, yeah, it does look nice and whatnot. I just think it should come with age, though. You know, like they say the human brain doesn't even fully develop till you're 25. And if half of your body's already inked at 19, it's a bit ridiculous. But I felt like a proper old man. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, his dad or mum or someone should have clipped around the ear.
Yeah, do you know what I really hate those these neck tattoos like
Mm.
Ederson. I think Anthony might have one as well. Yeah, they just look awful to me. Just not my cup of tea at
With
all.
Edison, though, I think, once you've covered your body, you've not really got much space left, have you?
No, it must be an addiction.
It must
So
be.
we got a little sidetracked there. So I'm just
Mm.
gonna come on to the player ratings, and then I'm gonna look
Aha.
at. I have to mention Solskjaer's appearance in the overlap if you've seen that,
Yes, yes, I've seen that.
and also the plans to redevelop Old Trafford and
Yep.
the surrounding areas. Obviously, another announcement was made on Friday about that. So Onana, I'm going to say 7, Diogo Dallo 6, Johnny Evans a 7, Varane a 7, very solid today. Victor Lindelof, a 6. Not really trouble today, because that says more about Everton, really. Um, the midfield three again, that was we saw against City. Kobe Manu, I'm going to say a 6. Casemiro, bit of a ropey first half, better second half. Um, s- some of his passing was wayward in that first half. But yeah, he made some really good tackles and interventions, as he quite often does. Should have scored a header at the end of the game. He went he tried to head it across goal rather than going for goal himself. But
Hmm.
probably a 6 for Casemiro. Bruno Fernandes scored a penalty, obviously. Um, I don't think he was a standout performance from him either. You know, as it wasn't from United, as we talked about. So I'll say 6 for scoring the penalty. Rashford likewise. Again, just a very very average display from him. And um, I thought Rashford against City, by the way, after the goal, he was atrocious. Like as if
Yes, it faded, didn't it? Especially, the one where it looked like he had a chance, but then he fell over instead of continuing the run. That
yeah,
kind of bugged me. It kind of summed up his game. We saw a moment of brilliance, something out of nothing, and then that where you
he, ch-
expect him to kick on and do something, and he opts to fall over.
I think what happened was that. Oh yes, the one where Kyle Walker put his hand
Yeah,
on him.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was one where he tried to head the ball in front of himself and he headed it
Hmm.
backwards instead. Um,
Yeah,
and then there was one at the back post where he had a lash at it and he made no contact with the ball and he should have.
yeah. Just progressively, like it just became a very stagnant performance.
Uh, so 6 today from Rashford. That's just for scoring the penalty, really.
Mm,
Um, Garnacho, Man United's man of the match. I mean, you knew after 40 minutes that he was going to get the man of the match.
yep.
So 8 for Garnacho and Scott McTominay a 5. Very poor in the center of the park, and giving away. He gives away. He got a yellow card, sorry, because he miscontrolled and then had to make a tackle, which is something we've seen from him many times.
Hmm.
People who listen to this podcast will know I'm not a fan of Scott McTominay, despite the winning goals that he's got this season. But I do feel as if a lot of teams in the Premier League will want him because of the goal threat that he is. So it's a chance for United to cash in, I feel, especially when you need to raise money to buy this summer. Um,
Also, when you look at the age as well, because I know he still looks very young, but he's about 27 now.
yeah, now's the time to get good
Yeah.
money for him. And yeah, substitutions were very late on, and so Ten Hag got the points. So I'll give him a 6, but I wasn't impressed.
Mm,
So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, there was some revelations from his appearance on the overlap. He talked about the signing of Ronaldo. Oh, he talked about the final game against Watford, how he knew that his time was up at United
yep.
at halftime in that game, and he asked the players, you know, who wanted who wants to play the second half, and put your hand up if you don't. And some people were getting into a frenzy because they looked at the stats from that game and seen that Rashford and McTominay came off at halftime, but having done some further research, um, I think McTominay. I'm trying to think which one's which here. I think they were both carrying an injury going into the game,
Mm.
and they were
The
they were
main thing
rushed.
I remember from that game is that Donny van der Beek came on and was one of the
Uh,
very
uh,
few bright sparks.
yeah, it was ironic. He scored the final goal under Solskjaer's
Yeah,
reign, and Solskjaer never really gave him a chance.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I don't think, despite all my criticism of Rashford and McTominay, I
Mm.
don't think they asked to be substituted at halftime in that game. That's my
Hmm.
belief. I think they were at least one of them was carrying an injury
I
going into
didn't
the game,
I didn't even think
and
that deeply into it, to be honest.
and,
The
and
main
quite
thing,
and
so,
quite often
yeah.
Solskjaer would bring people back from injury too early,
Hmm.
so it wouldn't surprise me.
And players like Rashford, I mean, he wouldn't take him off, like no matter how shattered he was.
Yeah, yeah. I think I think what it was. Here's what this is what it was. McTominay was carrying injury going into the game, so he came off at half time because I think he wasn't able to continue. And Rashford was really poor in the first
Mm.
half and he probably just substituted. I would hate to believe that anyone said, I'm not feeling it anymore. I want to come off at half time.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
think
see
that's
that
what
being the
happened.
case
I think people just interpret things, don't they, and just run with
because
their
it
own
fits their
agendas.
narrative.
Yeah, yeah, it fits their agendas. Um, the main thing though that I was really intrigued by, obviously, was to learn about the recruitment and transfer setup and who has the final say and the process behind that, and obviously his feelings on Jude and Haaland. And I thought it was very interesting that he brought Haaland to their attention. You know, it was so early on
Yeah, but
when
they
he was
didn't listen
available
to
for
him.
20 million and they didn't listen.
Yeah, he was 100% right about that, obviously. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And at that time, had you looked into it, you know, it probably could have got the deal done. Ultimately, I think Haaland did what was right for his career in going to Dortmund, because you know they had a proven track record of developing young players.
yeah, I suppose it feels right for him also to follow in the footsteps of his dad rather than coming to the rivals of the clubs that his dad played for. That wouldn't have
Mm.
made logical sense, really. But this is down to United's incompetence again.
And this is
So
the thing. Oh, Carl, he touched on it as well. Ollie touched on that and said, like, had we acted early in those days, he doesn't think that that connection would have, you know, really stopped that from happening. Had we got in there early,
yeah.
the Jude thing was interesting as
So
well because obviously, you know, he got the full tour of the stadium and everything, and he met all the legends and whatnot. But yeah, the young man already had a clear idea of what he wanted, and he wanted minutes, and you couldn't guarantee it at United.
yeah, I remember that from the time.
Mm.
But I didn't know that they'd ruled out Fergie, Cantona, and Brian Robson, and Kane
Yeah,
was
yeah,
supposed to be there that day as well.
yeah, 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 yeah. But I'm
But
kind
it
of
didn't
with
work.
Roy though with what he was saying. I think you know that shouldn't be the deciding factor of what convinces you to sign.
Yeah, yeah. To me, he wouldn't have got the minutes that he got at Dortmund.
Yeah,
Him and his dad knew that he wasn't going to be
yep.
a starter for United right away, and that's what they wanted to develop him. They
And
wanted,
and that's the thing. Like when we think of young players, you know, Dortmund is a destination now because they've built that reputation up over many years, and of having that track record of giving young players that time to develop.
yeah. So United, Solskjaer phoned United when Holland was at Molde to say you sign this player, and they would have got him
Mm.
for buttons. Then again, when he was at Salzburg, when he Solskjaer says he didn't play at Salzburg for the first three or
Hmm.
4 months, he told United this is the time to get him
Yep.
activate his 20 million
Yep.
release clause, and they didn't listen.
Yep.
And
And then he
once
was
he's
available again at Dortmund for 60 million. but
yeah,
but
but at that
then
stage,
by
at that
then, you know, he's firing on all cylinders and
they
other
were
teams are interested.
they were competing with City and Real Madrid, so it was out of the question at that point.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, and buying him, in addition to that, obviously Solskjaer didn't mention it, but obviously we've already heard that he never really got talking to Fergie that much anyway because John Murta interrupted,
Hmm.
which was a total shambles, really, to be honest. Um, but yeah, the most important thing that he wanted to hear from Solskjaer was that he was going to play. But you can never give a 16-year-old that kind of guarantee unless you're Dortmund and that's what you
Yeah.
specialize in. Um, so yeah, obviously none of this matters now because these players are not going to play for Manchester United ever probably. Um, but it is interesting to get an insight as to how Man United
But
works.
it's important that we learn from these things, Carl. So that's why it's good to revisit them, just so
Yeah,
we know what not to do the next time. You know, these kind of talents pop up.
yeah, and we have to mention the Ronaldo situation, which was
Yes.
also interesting.
Hmm.
So he said that he agreed to the signing. He takes responsibility for that,
Yeah.
but he admits that in hindsight it was the wrong decision
For both
to
of them.
bring both of them. Yeah,
Hmm.
because he felt that United were one of the best pressing teams in the league until Ronaldo came in and ruined
Mm.
that.
and had
Um,
to change it. Yeah. So he said like they had to adjust as well. So when he wasn't in the team, and also mentioned that obviously his personality like Ronnie, he doesn't like not playing. So then you know
yeah, he
what?
said this was an interesting comment that they had an agreement that no,
Mm.
Ronaldo actually asked him play me in 3 games
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then give me
three
a
out of
rest
four
in
games.
play me in 3 games and give me a rest in
Yeah.
the fourth. But
Hmm.
whenever he did that, then Ronaldo would kick up a stink.
Yeah.
Um, there would be reports in the media of Ronaldo not being happy. Fergie would be
Hmm.
unhappy.
Hmm.
See out there. That is
Yep.
absurd
Yeah.
and totally unfair on Solskjaer to be
Mm.
treated that way by Ronaldo and Fergie whenever he was just doing what Ronaldo asked for. It's just that's impossible for any coach to manage in that situation.
Yeah.
It's bad enough having to manage Ronaldo's ego, but Fergie on your case as well. See, this is the problem with having a former Fergie player as the coach,
Hmm.
because Fergie probably feels then that he can give input and control that coach because he knows him as
Probably. Yep.
so that's just never going to work. That is not a sustainable situation. And then of course we started off that season really well, and then the results started to spiral. And when we got into the autumn, and eventually it led to Solskjaer sacking. But what was also interesting is that he mentioned the thumping at home to Liverpool, the 5-0, and then the 2-0 at home to City, where they just toyed with us, where Bailly scored the bizarre own goal. Um, he said in those games that he basically took the handbrake off and allowed United to go toe to toe with Liverpool and City, because he felt as if this was what was this his third season in charge, and he felt this is Manchester United. We can't keep playing low block counter attacking football. We're playing at home here. We've signed Varane, Sancho, and Ronaldo in the summer. Let's go out and play some football and take these teams on. And
Hmm.
obviously, it didn't work out. It turned out the team was not ready for that. But that was interesting that that he made a decision to go toe to toe with these teams, because just because he felt as if Manchester United have to play this way at home, even though the sensible thing would have been to just, defend and play counter attacking football. But he discovered afterwards that United simply weren't ready to take on these teams toe to toe.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an impossible situation, isn't it? Yeah. The manager ultimately has to have overall control. But again, if you felt so strongly about it, you should know the profile of somebody like Ronnie, even the issues he was having at Juventus at the time. So you need to know what it is that you're signing. So yeah, you know, you really should have said no if that's not what you wanted.
Yeah. Certain fans have been getting a bit, sentimental towards Solskjaer
Mm.
in recent times, even without that interview, and feel as if he got a raw deal at United.
I mean, listen, he'll always be a legend to me as a player, as a manager, and I've said this many times. He shouldn't have got that job in the first place, if we're being honest.
Mm, I agree with you.
You know, he was never qualified for that as as the next permanent manager. He hasn't achieved anything. He came from Cardiff. It's not really the foundation to set you up for anything at United, despite your history as a player.
No, but you know, he kind of done better than I thought he would. Obviously at the
Mm.
end it was horrendous,
Yeah,
but
yeah, it was absolutely horrible. Just yeah,
but the
I did
things that he
enjoy
did,
his interim run. His interim run was great, but again,
but
there's less pressure on you as
he
interim.
basically beat Manchester City every time we played them.
Hmm.
It was his incredible record.
Yeah, I think
He
what
got
we mustn't do though is look back through rose tinted glasses because when it went wrong, it did go very, very wrong.
yeah, there were peaks and troughs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because
Um.
we tend to do that after some time has passed, don't we? Especially when things aren't going well in the immediate future. We always think back to how things were and sort of ask, oh, was it really as bad as we thought? Yeah, yeah, it was. It was bad.
Yeah, it was very up and down, and then at the end it was very very down, and
Hmm.
something had to give. If even when he came in, obviously we got a massive lift in those first 14 games, ending with us beating PSG. And but then from after that PSG game to the end of the season was dreadful. Then we had a very poor start to the next season, and then after lockdown we picked up again. So it was constant up and downs all the time.
Yep.
But probably another reason why he was able to have good spells was because of the quality of the forwards that he had at his disposal.
Hmm.
And you know, the team that he had in terms of forwards, you know, throughout his time at the club, he obviously had he had Rashford, who's playing some of his best football. He had Martial playing some of his best football. He had Cavani, he had Ronaldo, he had Greenwood. So it was no wonder that we were known as Moments FC. We'd be very poor for most of games. There was no pattern or style of play, but we just individual brilliance would win us games. I remember even beating West Ham, for example, and we only played well for about 10 minutes, but we won like 3-0 because we scored three brilliant goals in a 10-minute spell, and that was just typical of Solskjaer. He also had Pogba and Fernandes playing midfield, behind these players. Some people said that the midfield lacked balance when them two were playing,
It,
and I
it
can
did for
I can
me.
see their point. Yeah,
It
I
did for
can,
me. I thought it was kind of ridiculous.
which is why he kept reverting back to Fred and McTominay, the old Mac
Hmm.
Fred partnership. But yeah, he was able to win so many games because of the quality of the strikers that he had. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, when he put it this way, he had a better forward line to choose from than what Ten Hag does. But then Ten Hag was,
definitely,
t-
definitely, because he had a Martial that could still contribute something. And
yeah,
in that lockdown period, he's probably the best spell of Martial that we saw.
NHS Martial.
Yeah,
Mhm. Got a hat trick even in one of those games at
yeah,
Sheffield United or something, wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He had a brilliant little chipped goal at Watford as well. During that lockdown period, it's the last time he really shone.
Yeah, I remember Rashford getting a hat trick against RB Leipzig,
Mm,
against
hmm.
Nagelsmann's RB Leipzig at Old Trafford,
Yep.
beating them 5-0.
Oh, yeah, we dismantled them. I
And
remember
then,
that because Nagelsmann rocked up looking like he just walked out of a H&M catalog.
yeah, but then what happened in the away leg in the final group match?
Yeah.
They knocked us out of the
Hmm.
of the Champions League. I think we went 3-0 down after in the first 20 minutes of that game. I was typical Solskjaer. You look at those two Leipzig games,
Yep.
it was like night and day, and that was a problem there
Oh,
with
I
Solskjaer.
remember that as well because it was before one of the Leipzig games where some of the Mino Raiola comments about Pogba come out,
That
and it
was the
was just a
one, yeah, the
circus,
one we,
wasn't it? Yeah, absolute circus. Ah,
yeah, it was the night before we were play them in Leipzig, where we lost
mm,
3-2 with 3-0
hmm.
down. I think Pogba came on as a substitute that night and actually was involved in a couple of the consolation goals that we got. But yeah,
Yeah,
me and Raiola the night before said that Pogba wanted to leave Manchester United or something like that. Yeah, uh, yeah, total
yeah.
disaster,
So
really.
apparently the interview was given like 2 weeks prior, but obviously these outlets
Oh
are
yeah,
gonna save it for the perfect timing.
Mino knew exactly what he was doing. Yeah,
Mm,
but like journalists, they time things very well,
yeah,
for maximum
absolutely. Yeah, for maximum exposure and
impact.
yeah, for the
Yeah,
impact. That's exactly it.
yeah, maximum impact. Yeah, um, yeah. So it was interesting to get it. It's always good to get an insight into what went on in the past. You know, unfortunately, we never get to know everything that's going on currently. We also have to wait a few years before we find out what actually happened.
What actually transpired? Yeah, definitely.
I also believe that Mourinho was doing a Netflix documentary and he's going to reveal all from
Mm,
his time at Manchester United. So a
that's
lot of
going to
United,
be very interesting.
a lot of United fans are going to tune into that one too.
Definitely. I did see his interview with Rio on his Five podcast, but yeah, they didn't dive too much into his United stint as I would have liked.
So there is going to be a task force who are going to be in charge of the development of a new stadium and the surrounding area of Old Trafford. That task force will include Andy Burnham, the Greater Manchester Mayor, Gary Neville, who's obviously a property developer in the Manchester
Yep,
area, and obviously former United captain, and also Sebastian Coe or Lord Coe, whatever you prefer to call him. He obviously
yep.
had a big role in the London Olympics.
Yeah, yeah. Him and David Beckham played a big role in that. I remember his name popping up around that time in the lead up to us winning that.
So plan A is obviously to build a new stadium beside Old Trafford,
Hmm.
and plan B will be to redevelop the current Old Trafford. I think what would be great would be to build a brand new stadium beside it on the same site where the United first team play all their home matches, and we hope to get the odd Champions League final, FA Cup final, England games. That's what the target by Radcliffe as well. He thinks that the North should get their fair share of
Hmm.
those showpiece events. Um, but keep the Old Trafford for youth team matches and women's games and all that sort of thing. You can still keep it there,
Yep.
and have a multi-stadium site like Man City have, and Madrid and Barcelona, for example. So um, that would be my ideal scenario, to have the new Old Trafford and the old one as well. What do you think,
Absolutely.
Rush?
It makes absolute sense. We've seen as much as, because there's a lot of sentiment when it comes to Old Trafford, and I totally feel that as well. But as the modern game moves on, we have to look at some of the biggest clubs in Europe who've made that call and they've moved on. The likes of Bayern Munich, the likes of Juventus, Atletico Madrid, and we have been left behind. This for me is a win-win. You get to keep the integrity of Old Trafford. Um, Along with moving to a new state of the art facility, which would see us through in the future. But also, once all of that's done, they'll probably make amendments to the current Old Trafford as well, I presume, if they want to use it for youth and the women's team and whatnot. So, yeah, I see it as a win win.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much potential. I mean, and also I would love to see United create like a fans park or something, or
Mm.
a big giant pub, if you like, for that's owned by the club to watch games in as well, or else erect a big screen. Um, what I definitely don't want is you know what we see at Manchester City. I don't know if you've seen the footage of whenever the City team coach arrives, and there's like an MC announcing the arrival of the team, and
uh, it's a bit
there's every player
unnecessary.
steps off
I
as
have
every player
I
steps
have seen footage of that. I didn't know that happened at every game.
and as every player steps off the coach, they're announced to the crowd and all. It's so
Yeah,
cringy. It's like watching an NFL game.
yeah, yeah. It's quite
It's
Americanified
it's like
kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah.
it's like we don't have an atmosphere, so we're going to try and manufacture one, and it's pure cringe. And yeah, I don't want United to become that, obviously, but I do think that we should have some kind of fans facility on site as well, especially for those who are unfortunate enough not to get tickets for the game, or even
Hmm.
for people to go before and after the match. People like to have a few drinks with their friends before and after the match,
Definitely.
for, because for anyone who's been to Old Trafford, they will know that there are several pubs in and around the stadium, but there's just not enough space for 75,000 people, like in those facilities, and it's very, very cramped. So if United could build like a super pub, that would be brilliant, or even have some kind of fan park in that area. So United, United have so much space to work with there. There's so
Exactly.
many,
And obviously they'll see the commercial side of things as well with something like that, right? So it's mutually beneficial for all.
and I think they're also talking about maybe building social housing as well, and more of that in the area, which is
Mm,
always a good thing.
hmm.
I would be up for buying one or get myself in one of those, and then get a season ticket. I've heard someone else say that if United are going to build a new stadium, they need to go all the way and make it 100,000 seater stadium. Let's be ambitious about it. That would be
That
brilliant.
that is quite ambitious. I think with the way new stadiums are constructed, surely they can do it where, you can, it's easier to add on to it in future if you wanted to, that makes sense. So perhaps you don't have to splurge on the 100,000 seater immediately, but say you do go for an 85 or something, maybe with plans which make it easier to then extend for future renovations.
Yeah, because obviously that's an issue with the Sir Bobby Charlton stand, is that it's right beside a railway
Yeah.
line and makes it difficult to
Hmm.
make it bigger. Although apparently they do have the technology now to do that, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
obviously creates an awkwardness.
it does.
Um, yeah, there's so many different things that United can do, but I'd love for United to have like a Tottenham Hotspur style stadium,
Yeah,
which is.
yeah, definitely.
And
But
how
yeah,
strange would it be for United to have like a roof that opens and closes and all as well? That would.
the thing is, it's one of those where, for me, I would definitely miss Old Trafford. Like, there's no replacing Old Trafford. So, it would definitely be different seeing them play in another stadium. But if they could keep Old Trafford as well, then I don't see an issue.
Yeah, have you seen the modern Bernabeu as well?
The
The things that they can
Bernabeu
do.
is incredible. Like, I saw the full breakdown of everything the new stadium has to offer, and the way they've done it is, yeah, it's crazy. So advanced, and it's capable of. They can switch out the turf. They can hold
Yeah,
concerts there without anything getting damaged. It's amazing.
you can switch out the turf with the press of a button.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's amazing how that happened. Obviously, the retractable roof as well, right? Temperature control, all of that.
Yeah, and at various times in the year in Madrid, they would need air conditioning and all,
Yep.
so I'm sure they have that in place. It, I don't know if you've seen on TV the United played in this stadium against Dortmund, I think it was in the summer, and Las Vegas, the new stadium they're
Oh, the
building out there.
Raiders Stadium, that
Yeah,
was incredible. Yeah, yeah. That because I think we talked about it at the time. Actually, I was like, "Yep, this is the kind of blueprint we need." Obviously, on a slightly smaller scale, to suit our needs. But yeah, because that was incredible. I'd never seen anything like that. That Raiders Stadium was crazy. It had its own bar and VIP section and so many different things. And yeah, the whole thing, the fact that it's temperature controlled, I thought was very cool.
yeah, because it's Las Vegas, it's the
It's
desert, it's
Vegas,
very
isn't
very
it?
hot.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So they need to.
So
So yeah, incredible.
when United were playing there against Dortmund in that preseason friendly, it was 120 Fahrenheit outside the stadium,
Mm,
but only 80 Fahrenheit inside the stadium because it was so well air conditioned.
yeah,
So, and obviously that's far more bearable.
quite the feat. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I still would have struggled inside that stadium, to be honest. That's too hot for my
Yeah,
liking. But even so, yeah, it's yeah, engineering wise, it's I just look at it in awe.
we won't have that much trouble at Old Trafford when it comes to the heat.
No, no, you don't have to
It's
worry about that. To be fair.
it's the rain that we want to keep out.
Uh-huh.
As if we want to, or the frost, obviously, on the ice,
Yeah.
and the snow, obviously, in the wintertime. Um, if we were
And
to have
then
a
also just
modern
being
stadium,
yeah, and then also part of the modern game, you have to look at the commercial revenue and stuff, right? And obviously, especially with they've scuppered plans for the HS2, which was supposed to be a train line that connected north to south. It was supposed to run from Manchester to Birmingham to London, and because of escalating costs and poor management of money by the government over the years, they've kind of scuppered what would have linked the north to the Midlands. So yeah, to have a state of the art stadium where you can hold concerts and things would actually, it would generate a lot of revenue uh, for local businesses and
yeah,
whatever else. So yeah, it's a good thing.
because we never have concerts at Old Trafford anymore. I mean, apart from United,
I mean, our stadium gets overlooked now for a lot of things.
yeah, including the Euros.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Even I was just gonna say, even for football matches, let alone concerts and things.
the only thing that the current Old Trafford holds, apart from United games, is the grand final of the Rugby League and Soccer Aid. That's
Mm,
that's it.
hmm.
And when you think the Etihad is holding like all these, you know, world famous concerts, they're holding Guns N' Roses and Oasis and
Yeah.
Beyonce and all the rest.
Yeah, that's what
And
I mean. Like, we don't want to be left behind. We want to be right up there.
yeah, the Glazers have just left us in the doldrums, really, when it comes to just
Hmm.
about everything, apart from our commercial
Yeah.
revenue.
And that's the thing; it's not
Um,
just beneficial to the club, like because the local economy sees that boom as well. With the footfall,
oh yeah,
everybody wins.
because like
All the small
local
businesses.
businesses only get, on average, local businesses in the Trafford area only get the benefit from United games once every fortnight. So
Yep.
if you're having more regular events at Old Trafford, obviously
Yeah.
it helps them more.
Absolutely, especially in the summer and stuff as well. Where the team are away on pre-season, touring other countries as well. So Old Trafford's just there. Imagine the concerts and things you could hold. Somebody like a Taylor Swift comes down, like everybody wins. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'll be there 100% for Swifty. I wouldn't miss it. Wouldn't miss it.
one of my friends has got a ticket already. He can't wait till she comes down. I think in Wembley later this year, in August sometime. I think.
Yeah, it'll be massive for the people who enjoy that.
Yeah, 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 huge. Yeah, the numbers are startling. She, generates more money than certain small countries.
Crazy, crazy.
Mm.
So on that note, we shall wrap it up there. If everyone could please like the video, subscribe to the podcast, and get more of your thoughts in, as Simon has done earlier in the show, and I will get back to as many of those as possible. And shout out to the people also listening on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Please give us a 5-star rating and help us grow the podcast. So thanks as always, Brish, for coming on.
Yeah, no worries. Pleasure. I'll catch you next time.
All right, I'll see you later.